College football nation, we are back. We are back with a big season. I am pumped. Week 1. If week 0 counts for anything or gives you a little foresight of what we're getting this year, it was a backyard brawl. It was hot. It was exciting. And that's what we're going to be getting all season. To go with it, we're giving you winners like we did all last year. But it's not just me anymore. I brought in the ringer, David Gloeckner. Thanks for joining. How you doing tonight?
Hey, awesome, man. I can't wait to kick this off now, week 1, and run through the whole season with you. Friday nights, Thursday nights, whatever we can get out there. You know, I do a lot of college football mornings on Saturday with the Sharp app, but, you know, DFS is in the blood. And I can't wait to take that over here to win daily with you and pump out some winners and make some money for the people.
That's it. We're getting hot again like we did last year. I think the big advantage is, listen, when you play NFL DFS, there's so much information out there. It's hard to get a huge edge. Everyone has all the information. Everyone knows the same stuff. With college football, there ain't that much information out there. So when you come watch our show, you actually do have a big edge on everyone because there's a lot of people just throwing lineups in because they know a couple of guys on the big teams and that's it. And a lot of these smaller schools get overlooked. And they shouldn't, because that's how you win, is when you find those big scoring games. And that's what we're going to do for you today. But 14-game slate, a lot of games to go through. We're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive right in. What we're going to do, new format for this year. We're going to go through each game. We're still going to use the depth chart. So we're going to go through the depth chart for each game, who we like, who we don't like, till we hit all 14 games. And then put your lineups in, and we'll go from there. So the first game on the slate, I'm going to share my screen. Is the Texas A&M game. Let's look at the depth chart here. They're playing Sam Houston State. So you're not going to get a depth chart there. It's a bunch of 1AA guys. I mean, Texas A&M is good. I can't imagine you're going to want to play too many guys from Sam Houston State anyway. Dave, anyone you're looking at from that game?
I'm not looking at much. You know, I was, as an aside, surprised that they're going with King at quarterback. I was looking maybe for some Johnson & Johnson combos this year and starting in week 1 early. I guess we're going to have to wait for that. Probably not playing much because this game can get out of hand by the middle of the second quarter. And while there's still value in getting some guys in there, I think we got more value in other games. So nothing really on my side here, Joel.
I'm pretty aligned with you. When you got, especially with 14 games, you got to be you got to really hone in on probably the games that are going to be closer. You're going to get 4 quarters. I can't imagine these starters play more than 3 quarters at most, but they'll probably be out by halftime, even realistically. So maybe, a Shane breaks off a big run or two. So if you want to sprinkle him in there, or Ionis Smith, I could see it. But other than that, this game is probably, for the most part, it's going to be a fade for me as well.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, now let's go to the explosive Rutgers University.
Scarlet Knights.
Dave and I are both in Jersey. Listen, as you guys know from last year, I have a soft spot for Rutgers. You're going to laugh when you see Isaiah Pacheco on the Chiefs, and he actually looks good, and you're like, wait a minute, this guy was on Rutgers last year?
Rutgers pumps out NFL talent. I mean, especially under Schiano. They had a little break. They didn't, but it's surprising. You're right. They do have some NFL talent out there.
It was like, maybe he was useful in 2 games last year, but that's what the difference is. I mean, you're a Rutgers team is just not good, and you can't play anyone on Rutgers. So that's an easy fade. Move on from them. Boston College, listen, the one thing I will say about Rutgers is if they did have a strength, which I don't really think they do, but the one thing that they might be decent at is defense. Like, they're a defensive team. They're going to slow it down. So this is definitely not a game script you want to target. I'll probably play Boston College guys in more fast-paced games later in the season. I don't hate Jerkovich and some of the weapons that they have. For this game against Rutgers, there's not a lot to like. Maybe Garwo because he can run 2 in and run for 100 yards. And maybe Zay Flowers because he's an NFL player and, he can probably catch 100 yards and a touchdown. But other than that, this is going to be pretty close to a fade as well for me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Rutgers was, I think, middle of the pack rushing defense and pass defense last year. Jerkovich, good arm, good throw. Zay Flowers, I think, is attractive. But again, this has one of the lower totals on the board. I'm probably a pass on this game as well. There's some attractive players, but better elsewhere.
I would agree. And that's where I go back to. We'll probably say it 100 times tonight. There's 14 games. Right?
Yeah. That's
this
a lot.
is a spot where, like, if there were 6 games, I might want to squeeze some of these guys in. With 14, we're going to find more explosive games that we'll be happier about as we go through this. All right, I think we got one coming up here. NC State and ECU. This is a game I like. I'm going to be playing this game. I'm going to be targeting it. A lot of people are really high on NC State this year. Dave, what do you think?
I am high on them too. I did a preview the other day. They really do look like a team that could overtake Clemson. I don't think they're quite there yet. And one thing about NC State, I mean, they've never won 10 wins in their program's history. Is this the year? And I think it really is. But I don't know if it'll be enough to get them in the ACC playoffs, but it'll be enough to have value here, right? I mean, love Leary. One of the maybe top 5, 6 quarterbacks in the nation. And I think he's got value starting tomorrow. So I was saying Ehlers is decent too. I don't like against NC State. The hefty, I'm pretty sure he's the lefty. It will have value later. But Leary, I think, I like NC State this year. I think Leary's going to kick it off big tomorrow.
So I'm with you on the NC State side. I think their offense is going to be explosive. But don't sleep on East Carolina. Listen, This team – Ehlers has been around. He's a dual threat guy.
Yeah.
He can run. He's been, what is he, a 3-year starter now, maybe 4?
Yep.
They have some receivers. Like, I actually think that they could score some points. And I actually will be playing some of these Eastern Carolina guys because I think it's going to be a little higher scoring than people think. I think North Carolina State's going to get their points. That's going to happen. So the question is this going to be 42-14? Or is it going to be, 42-31, which if they can get it to be competitive and they can score some points, this is a team that, you're going to get some low-priced guys with Ehlers. Let's look at some of the receivers. I like Jalen Johnson.
Yep.
The guy that maybe is sneaky is CJ Johnson. I think that the inside scoop I heard is he went to high school with Ehlers. They lost a lot of guys, so they know each other at 4K. I wouldn't go all in, but someone that maybe a sneaky play who could rise up the depth chart here and be a bigger name than maybe people thought.
Well, he had 500 yards last year, 520 and change. So he was somewhat of a target. Yeah, I could see him being one of those value plays for sure.
Because you don't know that they lost the few guys from the top. So there's going to be some more targets to be had here on this team. Who do you like to catch the ball for Leary on the NC State side?
Well, I think that's the beauty, right? I really think he has a lot to throw to this year. Looking in here, I think my favorite out of all of them, looking at my chart, is Carter. I just do. I think he's a guy that's explosive, but Thomas is really good as well. Averaged almost 14 DK points when playing last year. So between the two, under that 7K range or right around that, I think brings you value out of those receivers. And East Carolina has no great defense. Like you said, I like them on offense. They're not very good on defense. They let up a lot of points in the American last year.
Totally. Yeah, no, NC State's going to score. The points are coming. It's a matter of who, but the points are coming. So I agree with you. It's Thomas and Carter. Carter's the big play guy. He can break a couple off. I think Thayer can possibly catch 2 touchdowns or something like that. So pick your pick there of who you want to partner with Leary. And then what about in the running game? I know they lost their 2-headed monster that they had last year. Is Jordan Houston getting all those carries, or what do you think in the backfield?
That's the news coming out of camp, but they got a young kid there. There's that name. I only want to try and say the 3-name monster there, Sumo Kanbadie. But I do think, I think that his style down there tends to lean towards a shared backfield. So I could see it again. I want to see how this plays out in week 1 before I'm ready to jump all in on Houston. But he's supposed to be, the rumors out are that he's the lead back.
And, listen, if this kid is, NC State's not scared to play 2 backs. So if this young kid who has the long name, Sumo, is good at 4,400, it's pretty cheap, right? And if we're projecting them to score a lot of points, again, I wouldn't play him in cash games, but if you want to sprinkle him into a GPP, it could be a good way to get different on a pretty cheap running back for a team that's going to score a lot of points.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's keep this train moving. Let's look at this UNC App State game. Listen, UNC looks really good in week 0. I mean, they can move the ball. I think this kid Drake May might. No one's going to fill Howell's shoes. I mean, Howell's an NFL quarterback, but he looks like he can put up some points. He can run a little. He can throw the ball. I was impressed. What did you think?
No, I thought so. North Carolina was one of those sneaky teams coming in that they tend to play down when they're really people are up on them, and they tend to play up when people are down on them. So this is kind of one of those down years. I was intrigued by what they did on offense. I'm still appalled by what they are on defense. A terrible defense last year, reshaped the defense, the coaches, and still got lit up in week 1. So from an offensive perspective, DFS, like May, I like the running game. I think they're kind of back to that explosive style when they had Michael Carter and Javonte Williams. But I think App State could have a good day running against North Carolina.
But let's keep this in mind, right? For our purposes, for DFS, having a bad defense is a good thing, right? Like more opportunities to score, right? Like we're not betting on the team, we're betting on offense. So you're right in that they do have a bad defense, 100%. But that's almost more of a reason to target them because they're going to give up points and they'll have to keep going back at it. So I like May. You can play one of the backs here. I don't love the backs as much because May can take some of the running as well. But my only question with Downs is he healthy? They're saying he might be playing hurt. If you're not getting a fully healthy Downs at 8,200, probably not something you want to spend up on. If he is healthy, he's probably one of the best receivers in the country, so I'll play him. But if he's not healthy, you got to pivot. And then on the Appalachian State side, they can run the ball. They've always been good at running the ball. This North Carolina team can't stop a nosebleed. Noah and Peoples, they were around last year and they were pretty good. I think the price on them.
I feel like he's been there 5 years.
I know. They've been around for a while. I think the price on them is too low. So the problem is they split. So not one guy's going to dominate the carries, but I think that both guys are worth a sprinkle against a pretty bad North Carolina defense.
I agree. And I think, what App State likes to do is they like to play the hot hand. So, again, I think your point going back to some of the tournament play, I think it's great to kind of take one of these, maybe not both. I don't think you'll get value pairing them, but one of them hits. I think he's going to get a lot of the carries. I tend to lean towards Peoples, but I know Noel's good too. They're two different styles, but yeah, I agree with you. They're too cheap.
Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. Is Chase Bryce the guy from Duke?
Yes.
Why? Why is he so
last year for them? And he threw away a couple games at the end of the year. He's just bad.
He's horrible. Why did he even have a job?
Yeah.
I can't recommend playing him, especially at 6,900. It's just bad.
Nope.
So I would just stay away from that. Running back, maybe, but that's probably. I guess you can. I wouldn't even play any receivers either. Just maybe the backs here at App State.
I agree. Not with Chase Bryce at the helm. I can't touch a receiver. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess someone made the mispricing here at DraftKings. All right. Let's go to this Buffalo Maryland game. And listen, I talked about them all last year. 2-2 is maybe going to win the Heisman. I think we're going to be up for the Heisman.
Well, we just got a comment in, and from Yvonne, he's right. He was at Clemson at first, Chase Bryce, and then Duke then. And that's right, because he had the miracle game that he saved for them. He came in like the third quarter and saved that game for them when T-Law went down. So, yeah, good call in the comments, Yvonne. Thanks for checking in.
I'm going to say something controversial. I've always said this. I know a lot of people don't agree with it. I actually think Trevor Lawrence is vastly overrated. And I think people loved him because he played on a much superior team to everyone in college. That team was going to be good with Chase Bryce at quarterback. They were so much better than everyone else. And now that he's in the NFL, I think reality is hitting that he's just maybe not as good as people thought.
Yeah, my thoughts on Lawrence is he's got all the talent. He's like that Jeff George. I'm worried about what he has up here and here. And that's if you don't have that, NFL eat you alive. So, yeah, the jury's out this year with Doug Peterson at the helm. If you can't succeed under Doug Peterson, yeah, I'm going to fade your way.
Yeah, I think we'll see. It's make or break now for him. But back to this Maryland team. So 2-2. He's really good.
I think so too. Yeah,
this is going to be an explosive offense. Listen, you're paying up for him at 8,700. It's not cheap. I mean, last year most weeks you were getting him in the high sevens, which was like above average, middle price when you could afford him. Now he's your elite play, but I think he deserves to be. I think this is an explosive offense. They're going to throw the ball a ton. They have a loaded receiving core.
Yep.
I mean, you saw Raheem Jarrett show out as a top option last year after Demas got hurt. Demas is the number one option.
I agree.
Jarrett took over because Demas was hurt. Demas will be back, and Demas is the better receiver. Demas is, I think, an NFL receiver.
I agree.
He's the guy I'm going to be targeting here in this offense.
Yeah, my only question with Demas, and it was horrible when he got hurt in that Iowa game because they were kind of hanging. I think it was a Thursday night football game, and it was just sad the way he went off the field. He's about a full year removed, right? Does he come back and ball out game one? That's my only, and that's probably why his pricing's, where it's at, because he's an $8,000 receiver when he's playing. I'm with you. NFL talent. I am going to be playing him, but I'm probably leaning Jarrett more in this game. Now, listen, Buffalo's D, they were 126 in PFF's rating of them in defensive backfield coverage. They were 111 in SP plus defensively last year. They're one of the worst. There's a reason that these three, I even like the kid coming over from Florida, Copeland, when you go down a little lower. He led Florida in receiving last year. So, and Jones is good too. I think you might even be able to mix two in here. I really think they're going to. Now, my question to you is, if I'm mixing all these receivers, do I stack two? Or will I have enough to stack Tagovailoa as well? And I'm curious what you think.
You probably can. You're going to have to find some value elsewhere.
Yeah.
You can go all in on this game if you want. Listen, Buffalo's bad, right? They're going to score points. They almost might be too bad, right? Because my concern is they don't play 4 quarters, right? Because it's going to be such a big blowout. And what happens is, he might, they might score all the touchdowns, but they might not get all the yardage you need to pay off these price tags because they came out of the game in the third quarter.
That's like Hooker last night. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's what you got to look out for, is that Buffalo might just be too bad and they can't keep pace, and then they won't play enough to, if, like I said, if 202 was in the 7Ks, it's fine because he gets 4 touchdowns and 200 yards. That's fine. But at this price tag, he needs to be your best player. And is he capable? Of course, but against Buffalo, who knows how this game's will end up.
Yeah, I saw an interesting take on him. I think in games when he played a defensive team over 35 in SP plus, his completion percentage was like 73%, 320 yards. He was awesome. And those were 6-0 they were. In good defenses, he really struggled, like Iowa. So we're getting a bad one tomorrow. We're going to get the good 202. So I think he's worth playing, but like you said, I think there might be 1 or 2 better down the board.
That's fair. I think to me, the biggest concern is not him, his talent, the matchup. It's is the game going to be over too early? And is his price maybe a little too high? Not that he's not good. It's just you might be able to get someone that can get as many points a little cheaper.
Agreed.
All right, let's keep this moving then. Let's look at this Michigan game. Now, I know a lot of people, which I find weird, like Cade McNamara.
Did they announce he's starting? I know they were flipping back and forth.
Yeah,
I thought he was holding it close.
I think they announced he's going to start. I guess it was kind of like it's not guaranteed. They might both play a little, but I think Cade is starting.
Okay.
Listen, I can't understand it. This team wants to run the ball.
Yes.
They're not going to drop back and throw a lot. I just don't see the attraction of playing him. I'm going to get behind in a 14-game slate. So I'm going to pass. I mean, I will look at this Michigan running game.
Yep.
And I think both guys are in playing, Corum and Edwards. I think Corum's going to take over. Corum looked really good as the number 2 last year. Him getting the majority of the carries this year at 7,300, I think, is absolutely in play. I think Donovan Edwards is a little bit more of a question mark, but at 5K, depending on how much volume he gets, he could be an interesting sneaky spot as well.
He's probably my favorite value guy across the board tomorrow. Edwards, even when he got the number 2 swing last year when Corum was out, he got 10 catches in that Maryland game for 170 yards, put up a huge DK, had 18 catches in his last 4 games. The kid's, I think he's a sophomore. And Harbaugh was talking about him coming up to, spring practices this year and call him a generational player. So I think there's a lot of value in Edwards. I think we should get him early at 5K because it might not last forever. But I'm with you. I think you could pair Corum as well. Corum is 73. I mean, he could have 180 yards in the third quarter. Colorado State's not very good defensively. They got a lot of turnover, new coach, new staff. Jay Norvell's coming over from, I think it's Nevada. So, yeah, I'm with you. It's running backs, and that's it in this game for me, even though you do have some good talent at receiver.
I don't know anything about the Michigan offensive line. I just got to imagine Michigan's offensive line is going to be in a huge advantage in this matchup, and there's going to be some big holes for these guys to run through. So I'm with you there. On the other side of the ball, there's a lot of question marks on Michigan's defense. They lost a lot of guys to the NFL. It's still Michigan. I imagine they're still going to be pretty good. I'm probably not going to be looking to play anyone on this other side of the ball here. This is probably a fade for me.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't know what they're doing. They're changing from, this run-heavy Steve Adazio day to this new kind of mixed Norvell kind of run and shoot with Carson Strong and Romeo Doubs last year in Nevada. I don't know yet, so I'd wait too. I agree.
And Michigan's not the team I want to test it on.
No,
we'll find a better team to do that.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep this train moving. How about this UCLA game? Dorian Thompson-Robinson has started for UCLA since they had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, I agree.
He has been their quarterback for all of time. I don't know how many years he's been there, but it feels like forever. He's one of those guys that, like, if you're playing multiple lineups, you got to have him in one because he can run for 200 yards and he can throw for 200 yards. And he's 9K, so, like, he's hard to build balanced lineups, but he can break a slate any given week. And I'm not really that scared of Bowling Green's defense. So, it just depends how this is a roster construction question more than anything. Like, can you find enough value to play a guy at 9K? Because he has the upside. It's just a matter of, can you build the rest of your roster around him?
Yeah, I think you make some great points. Bowling Green sat here. They let up 190 yards per game on the ground. They're very susceptible. UCLA, as we know under Chip Kelly, wants to run first. So I think, and that does start with the quarterback. So between him and then even when we take a step down, look at running back Zach Charbonnet, he's got to be on a lot of your radars. But I don't like Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I always get it wrong. But as a quarterback, but I love him as a DFS player, and especially when they play bad teams. So he's in play for me at 9K for sure.
I actually agree with you. Against a good team, like, he's not a good thrower. But against a bad team, he gets a lot of he'll throw, a slant over the middle that'll go for 50 yards because they're a bad team, and he gets those stats, and then he runs it for another. So he just is so involved in a very high-powered offense and he can run. He can just do so much that I will get away from him some because of the 9K pricing, just because
True.
It's hard to build a lineup with guys that are 9K.
Yeah. Now, one interesting guy down there is Bobo, right? I mean, I've heard a few things about him at receiver.
Yeah,
and I think there's good value there. Now with Dulcich out, or if I'm saying right, the tight end, I think there's some more balls to be caught, and I think Bobo is going to step up and do that. So I think 5K, one of the nicer ranges on this card.
Yeah, Bobo transferred from Duke, and he unfortunately had to deal with Bryce as his quarterback, who stunk. So there wasn't much he could do. This is definitely an upgraded situation for him. I don't think Bobo's a good player. He's a good receiver. Yeah. He's not that explosive. I don't think you're going to get like super big plays, but he's the type of guy that can get you 9 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown, which would easily pay off that $5,000.
Right. And 20 points. You're looking for, if we can get 3 or 4x value, that's great at that 5K range.
For sure. How about on the other side here? You look at anyone on Bowling Green?
I don't. And UCLA is not a great defensive team. This could be Chip Kelly's last stand, but not enough there for me concerning, like, again, we go back to it, 14 games, a lot of good offenses on the slate. Nothing for Bowling Green for me.
We probably should have said this in the beginning of the show. One thing to also realize, this is week 1. Yep. We're going to know a lot more about all these teams in week 4 and 5, and we're going to be able to, if there maybe is a diamond in the rough on Bowling Green that you might want to play, we'll know that by week 4 or 5. Right now, I don't know anything about Bowling Green. Maybe I might be interested if I think this could be a higher scoring game because UCLA can score. I'd find one, but right now I would just be guessing. So I'm not going to guess now. A couple weeks in, we'll have some more information. Yep. We might be able to find out something there, but for this week, that's going to be a pass.
Agreed.
All right, let's keep it moving. How about let's look at this Cincy Arkansas game. From a personal standpoint, I think Arkansas is a lot of fun. I love their coach. Mm-hmm. They're just easy to root for. Right? KJ Jefferson. They kind of feel like they're like your hometown team, right? Like you want to root for them. Cincinnati is not the same Cincinnati team that they were last year. I don't know what they are, right? They're usually a pretty good team. There's just a lot of question marks in this game. Hard to really want to target it, to be honest.
Yeah, and a total that's, low 50s, especially when we got totals over 60, 3 or 4 of them, several over 58. This is one I'm a little miffed about too. I'm not sure what I want to play here, especially on the Cincy side. I mean, they lost all that talent. But I do Jefferson's good. Arkansas's got attitude now too, right? And, coming off a great 9-win season, I frankly think, getting Franks out of there as they did a couple of years ago and transitioning to this style of play, I think really bodes well. I just don't know what Cincinnati is on defense. And as long as you have Fickle over there, they're going to find ways to play good defense. So Sauce is gone, right? A lot of good players on that side, but I just don't feel good playing anything from Arkansas or Cincinnati.
I'm with you. This game script in a 14-game slate feels like one to just fade.
Yeah.
All right. How about Oregon and Georgia? So for me, I mean, the general, first of all, ostensibly,
laugh at the salary of Bennett, though.
I mean, he was awesome last year, but come on, 9,400. That's outrageous.
There's no way.
That's outrageous. That's just not. So that's not even being considered. The problem with Georgia is that they're so good on defense. You can't really. First of all, even if Georgia wasn't good on defense, I'm not playing Bo Nix. I mean, Bo Nix is not like. I don't think he's someone that really. I don't know why he's their starting quarterback. To be honest, I think Oregon can do better than that. My prediction will come back here, later in the season, and he'll lose the job.
I agree. He's terrible. But what is Oregon doing? I mean, they came off Anthony Brown from BC, now pulling from the portal again. They can't home grow anything, and it's kind of odd to me. Yeah, I agree.
Which is Oregon. Oregon's typically like a quarterback factory. Supposedly,
Herbert. Justin Herbert there too, right before that.
And they've had a few NFL guys coming out. They supposedly they have a freshman who's a 5-star recruit, so I'm sure that kid will take over at some point this season.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not going to play anyone against Georgia's defense. That just
no.
We're just going to fade that. I guess we're not going to play Cincinnati at 9,400. I guess you could. Yeah, Brock Bowers you can play because
love him.
He's explosive and he can score 3 touchdowns or something like that. But other than that, we saw last year. Georgia spreads it around. There's a lot of guys. They're probably going to blow them out, but I don't see it being focused too much on one guy. If I wanted to sprinkle Brock Bowers into a lineup, I might, but that's probably the only guy I'd consider here.
I agree, and I'm still not sure where they're at with Milton and McIntosh in the backfield. I think it's McIntosh for sure, but like you said, in a game where we're going to have, I think the pace is going to be a little bit slower than typical Oregon, and I think I'm with you. Bowers, not much else in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, let's go look at this Arizona-San Diego State game. This is another one that's going to be pretty close to a fade for me. Arizona's bad. I just can't – until they show me a reason to have any faith in them, I'm just going to fade the whole Arizona team. San Diego State's is known to be a good defensive team. So there's another reason not to target anyone in Arizona. If you want to target maybe somebody on San Diego State against this bad Arizona team, I'd be okay with that, right? But who are you going to go after? Probably Bell, right? One of their backs who dominate. But other than that, I'm not going to be looking too much.
No, I mean, the game's somewhat attractive. You can probably find some decent gems in this game if you're willing to. I mean, it's a big sacrifice. I mean, I can't believe Burmeister, another guy that, hit the portal and is somewhere where he shouldn't be, was terrible with Vatek. I would load the box, and then Bell becomes a non-factor, but Arizona's so bad that it might still not matter. So Bell's in play for me, but it's going to be on a small percentage of my lineups. This game's pretty much a fade for me.
I guess you make a good point. Burmeister, maybe because Burmeister runs. So
he does. That's true.
Maybe you want to look at Burmeister finding a big running game, and you could probably play him without a receiver, just solo if you wanted.
Good point. Yeah.
But that's it. I wouldn't be heavy on him either.
Yeah, he does. If he starts running, he's got 30-point value and a $6K salary. That's beautiful. So yeah, he's terrible, but not bad for DFS versus bad teams. Good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe he runs one in and gets you there. So, all right. Let's look at over here. So a lot of new stuff going on in this game. All right, Oklahoma, a whole new look. Listen, I actually think Oklahoma for DFS purposes is going to be pretty good.
Yep, I agree.
But there's a big but. 9,200 for Dylan Gabriel on our first look at it seems steep to me. Can he get there? He might be able to. This could be an explosive team. But if I'm going to spend up, just so many unknowns, I think I'd rather go for someone I know more about that maybe had been a little bit more of an established situation and wait and see on this Oklahoma offense for a week or two first.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely in play for cash games. Tournament, yeah, well, I'm with you. 9-2 is a lot, but there's so much familiarity here, even though it's his first game, bringing Jeff Libby over from his old offensive coordinator. I think that's going to help, and he's got some awesome talent. As you already said, Mims is going to be fantastic this year. So he's bringing back 3 offensive linemen, 2 returning out of the 5, and brought in a couple in the transfer portal. So they're going to be solid up front, protecting him. I see him putting up some really good points in this game. How long does he play? UTEP looked terrible. They already had a week 0 game. You know, they're leading, I think, North Texas. No, they're down 1 at half, 14-13, lose 31-13. Allowed, I think, almost 400 yards to the Mean Green. So this could be over quick, too. That's the other concern.
The one thing I will mention about UTEP is Tyron Smith, who's 4,600, had 15 targets last week.
That is nice.
That's a season for some guys. So, I mean, listen, Oklahoma, if they're up big, they're going to be throwing a lot. They're going to throw to him every time. You know, maybe he gets a few big plays. At 4,600, I think you can give him a shot as a value play.
Yeah, that was Hardison threw 21-48. I remember seeing how bad his completion percentage was. It was, 40%. But, he's at least got a couple of guys that he loves. And Smith had it and Flores had he had 8 catches for 122 last week. So, yeah, they get down, they're going to chuck it.
That's what I mean. They're going to be down. They're going to be throwing. Listen, if Flores at 3,100. Yeah. He doesn't need to have that again, right? If he has 5 catches for 60 yards, that probably pays off his price tag. So, in a game where this won't be close, they're not going to be running the ball up the middle. I'm actually okay with that. I wouldn't mind playing those guys. Some good value plays there.
I'm writing them down. I mean, I had Smith, but Flores as well. I mean, I think, if you're going to pay high, you're going to have to get value somewhere. These are 2 good spots.
Yeah, man. These are the types of plays we were referencing in the beginning of the show of like, no one knows who these guys. Unless you're paying attention and watch what happened week 1, these aren't known guys against a much better team. Like, that's the type of thing where you'll probably see, I can't imagine. I mean, we'll take a look at it. I can't imagine their ownership will be very high for this week.
But at least we had week 0 to play these guys, right? So I love it. That's a good point. We had some information that helps.
For sure. All right. So now we have this Houston team who is a very good football team. This is one of the better defenses probably in the country, which means I'm full fading UTSA. I mean, I'm just not going to play anyone because Utah could shut them out. So I don't want to play anyone on the other side of the ball. On the Houston side, I think that there's a few guys in play. I think Clayton Tune has been around for a minute. Yep. I think, he can have 8K. For me, is a little steep for him, but I can get around to that if I had to. Tayshaun Henry from Texas Tech, right? He transferred?
Yes. Well, because they lost McCaskill out for the season towards ACL, I think, in spring. So, yep.
So, McCaskill was really good. So, if you're thinking this is a spot where the primary running back on this team is going to be good, then there's a lot to like about Henry. If you're thinking it's McCaskill, then fair, right? It's just that's a decision you got to make. I actually liked Henry at Texas Tech. At 5,800, I think the price is reasonable. I think it's a spot they should do well. I think he's definitely in play for me.
Yeah,
but obviously the main play here is going to be Dell. Dell's
his tank. Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be probably one of the highest owned players this week too. So keep that in mind. You're not going to be different playing Dell. But Dell at 70, I think they've underpriced him.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah,
he definitely should be in the 8Ks. They get Dell at 7,800. He's a smash play. He's probably one of the best plays of the slate.
I agree. Yvonne checked in saying he's going to play Smith based upon just, the 7 for 127 last week. We agree. That's huge. And getting the price under 5, he's in play for sure. But in this game, the only way, and Dell is absolutely in play for me. I'm going to play him, but I'm going to make 1 point on UTSA. And I could see Frank Harris. And the reason I could see him is his running, right? They're not great with their running backs. He's had over 200 plus, I think, carries in the past 2 seasons. So if I can get some, a good defensive line like Houston might force him out of the pocket, I might be able to play some Frank Harris here, looking for maybe an 80, 90-yard rushing game out of him. Nobody else is really that touchable. I think the receivers are okay, decent, but like you said, Houston's D is potentially a top 15 unit in the nation. So I might get sneaky playing Harris just because I also think people will fade him for a lot of the reasons you said. I might get low ownership.
I think it's a fair point. I actually think this UTSA team can be explosive. I think they might be decent. I probably will go back to them later in the year.
For sure.
I think I want to get away from them from Houston, but I actually think they are a good sneaky offense.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And in tune, 30 TDs last year, Dell, I could see you definitely pairing those two up.
Before we move on to the next game, just a quick reminder, win daily. Sign up, right? We're doing a huge promotion, 1 month free of gold. Go to the website, put in the promo code WIN22. You get not just our shows, which you're watching now, ton of articles, projections, really closing the loop when you kind of tie into some of our content, right? To make sure you're seeing some of the projections, who looks good. It's a no-brainer deal right now, right? So go sign up, get the beginning of the year going. You'll definitely will pay off for you by the end of the year.
The models are just insane. So yeah, and it's about a price of coffee anymore. So I mean, where we're headed, $5.99 a week. So I'm with you, Joel. It's a great deal.
I love it. All right. So where were we?
Got about 2 left, I think, on here, right?
That is correct. We are at Troy and Ole Miss.
I mean, Ole Miss is a good running team, right? They were 19th in the nation running the ball last year, but this is the Lane train. I think Lane puts up 60, but how does he do it? I never know. So I'm curious where you're sitting here because Jackson Dart, nice, love it, coming over from USC.
Yeah, listen, Ole Miss is going to score. Right, yeah. Like they are going to be an explosive offense. I think I'm following the same spot as you. It's week 1. We don't know who they're going to be feeding. It's a question mark. 8,300. Jackson Dart has as much upside as any of these guys that we talked about who are $9K and more expensive. So, is worth sprinkling a shot on for sure in this offense. I think my preference is the backfield. These are 2 very good runners we've seen transfer over here. I think this can be an explosive backfield. I'm happy playing Evans or Bentley in this matchup. I actually think they'll use Bentley probably as a receiver a lot too. He'll probably catch a lot of balls.
And Evans averaged 7 yards a carry in what I'll say limited. He still had a decent amount of carries. He had almost 100. So he's explosive. So yeah, I like the Evans play here.
Yeah, I think there's a whole lot. That's my what I'm struggling with is Ole Miss is there's like 6 guys I can get behind, which I obviously can't play 6 guys from one team on a 14-game slate. So it's hard to narrow down your pick. So I guess if you want like Malik Heath at 3,900, I think is the most attractive just because he's so cheap. So if he's heavily involved in this offense at that price, that's a real good value there. But we knew Mingo was involved last year. Jalen Robinson was at UCF, and he was pretty good there. So he's transferred over. Any of these guys can have a big game. So, it's a great offense. They're going to score points. Right now it's kind of picking at about who's going to score the points, but I'll have some share here.
I agree. And Troy, they're a team that, a lot of people liked but their win total is still, I think, 4.5 coming into the season. They're not very good, and they're taking too big of a step up against a guy that likes to crush these types of teams.
Yeah, I'm at a point with Troy where it's like they might have some decent options. I know nothing about Troy. I don't know any of these guys. So at this point, we're just taking a shot in the dark. I mean, you would think, Ole Miss typically doesn't have – they're just a run and gun. They typically don't get many stops. So maybe there's an opportunity for them to come back, but I would not know who to tell you to play. So I'm probably going to fade Troy.
Agreed.
All right, the last game of the slate. Let's not overlook it because it might be the most explosive.
Yeah.
This is gonna be. This is what I'm gonna at least from the BYU side for sure. BYU is a good football team. Jaron Hall is underpriced. Jaron Hall is a dual threat. He can be the leading runner. He can throw for 300 yards. Jaron Hall might be my favorite quarterback play, value-wise, price and potential combined, of the week, of the day. So I love Hall here. They got to replace Algier, a running back who was awesome. I think somebody will do good. It's probably between Brooks and Katoa. Katoa might be more of like a receiving back than a real kind of in between the tackles type guy. I don't know how good Brooks is. I'll probably have a little bit of him, but I'm not going to go overweight because I'm going to probably take a wait and see approach. Especially how much I'm going to be playing Hall, and I love Hall. I don't want to play too much of Hall and Brooks, obviously. And then at receiver, I love Puka Nacua. I liked him last year when he was the number 3 guy. So I think him getting a little bit more in looks, getting him moved up the depth chart a spot, I think is going to be really good for him. I'll be playing a lot of him with Hall. And Gunnar Romney was really good. He got hurt last year, and he really slowed down at the injury. But before the injury, he was the number 1 guy. This guy was a stud. At 6,500, I think Gunnar is underpriced, and I will be playing him here as well.
Yeah, I love your angles. The one thing I'll say about BYU coming into this game, and I love Hall. I think he's 1 or 2. If I can find a way to fit 2 quarterbacks into my lineup, because remember that in college DFS, you get the super flex. If you can find a way to price 2 of these guys in, both at 7K range, you can pull it off. I watched lineups last night really succeed with Spencer Sanders in the super flex. I didn't do that, by the way, because I think he stinks, but some lineups did. So now looking at today, I like Hall, but I do like this Brooks kid. And big reason is USF, horrible against the run. I think they were like 10th worst, 207 yards per game, 5.8 yards per carry. Now they're returning, I think, 10 of 11 stars on defense. Is that good? It could be, but is it also bad because they were that bad last year? And probably. So I like Brooks a lot, but with you, I think it's a Hall, Brooks, and I'm good with 1 or 2 of the receivers. Leaning towards, I'll flip a coin between the 2 up top.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm with you with the South Florida. They're not good. Returning guys, maybe that they should improve. I would agree, but I think this BYU team is going to be explosive. I think they're going to score a lot of points. So we'll stay there. I'll definitely target them. We'll try and get our points. But what I do want to comment that you said is, for me, especially on these big slates, I try to get 2 quarterbacks in as much as I can. That's why it's really hard to play the 9K guys, right? You have to be super, because let's take a bigger picture look at this real quick. So that's a wrap for the games. We went through all the teams. I'm going to just kind of give a little bit of strategy conversation before we wrap up for tonight. For one of these 9K guys to pay off with 14 game slate, they have to go off, right? So a good game, if they throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, that's not enough, right? And that's still a good game. 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, that's a good game. No one's usually upset, and that might work for cash, but in a GPP or a tournament, that's not enough. So you can get 300 yards and 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns from somebody in the 7K range. That's going to happen, right? That quarterback's out there. So the point is, if you're paying up for a 9K quarterback, you have to have conviction that they're going to be 300 to 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, at least 3, for that to even be considered close to value. And so that's where I'm saying I'd rather find those guys in the 7K range. I know it's harder to, the higher likelihood to 9K guy, but in the 7K range, if I get a guy in the 7K range that scores the same amount of points, which is a very real possibility, now I can build a much more balanced lineup and actually take down the tournament. So I'm just going to be targeting those guys, and then when I hit, that's when I'm going to hit big.
Yeah, I love it. The 9Ks, like you said, you got to be almost 40 points. You got to just out the door. In week 1, I think some of the 9K guys have too large of a point spread for me to really rely on them, heavily throughout the game. So can they put up the points in a half, 3/4? Absolutely. Would I really rather want a guy in a closer game like a Toon, like a Harris? Hall might not be that close, but he's going to be close enough. I'd rather want those guys for sure. I agree.
For sure. And it's all about, college football, especially more so than most other sports, is all about your strategy, right? Your game theory, how you're going to get different. Because there's going to be some guys that you'll notice are going to be super chalky, and some chalk you got to eat, right? Because it's an obvious smash play. Some chalk you can get away from. So, build the strategy, stick to it. What you don't want to do in college football is play 2 9K quarterbacks because, they might be in great spots and then have to fill in some random 3K guys that you're not sure about. They're gonna get you zeros or ones, and that's just not going to do it, right? Mm-hmm. You're better off trying to chase a cheaper quarterback who probably has more upside and then filling out the rest of your roster with guys who are actually going to get a lot of targets.
100% agree.
All right, that's a wrap for week 1. Good luck this week. Dave, anything I missed for tonight?
No, you hit it all. I love that, how we went through this, gave some little tidbits at each game, and then really hit hard where we're starting to lean. So our last piece, and I think we all do this, look at the totals. Try and target games like that. When you have a 14-game slate, try and look at those games, those 5-6 up top, and then get creative in some of the lower-end games. So as you build your 2-quarterback strategy, also try and look at some of the higher point spread total games. So it's going to be fun.
Totally. That's 100%. When you're overwhelmed looking at 14 games, make it easier on yourself. Find the highest totals, narrow down those games, pick the players from those spots. That's the best, simplest strategy to find some high scoring games and some good potential. That's it for this week. Good luck. Let us know. Follow us on Twitter. Let us know how you did. Post your green screens. Show us your lineups. We're looking forward to a big week, a big season, and we'll catch you next week.